Before the first sunrise painted the void, before galaxies spiraled into existence, before the very concept of time began its relentless march, there was only the uncreated Creator, the Almighty God, dwelling in unimaginable glory. His abode was a celestial city, a realm of light so pure it would blind mortal eyes, a symphony of joy and perfect harmony where countless angelic beings, each a unique facet of divine artistry, served and worshipped. Among this radiant host, one figure stood with unparalleled brilliance: Lucifer, the light-bringer. Lucifer, the anointed cherub, the most beautiful and powerful of all created beings, held a position of breathtaking authority. He was the leader of the heavenly choirs, his voice capable of orchestrating melodies that resonated with the very fabric of creation. He moved with grace and commanded respect, a favored son in the eyes of the divine. Yet within this magnificent vessel, a subtle, insidious seed began to germinate, the poison of pride. This pride festered, nurtured by the constant adoration and the immense power he wielded. Lucifer began to fixate on his own splendor, his own capabilities. He gazed upon the boundless expanse of God's creation, the legions of angels bowing in worship, and a treacherous thought took root. Why should I merely reflect this glory? Why not possess it myself? This nascent desire for autonomy morphed into a ravenous hunger for dominion, a silent rebellion brewing in the depths of his celestial heart. Lucifer, cloaking his ambition in eloquent words and seductive rhetoric, began to subtly sow the seeds of discontent among the angelic ranks. He approached those closest to him, the principalities and powers who held significant sway, and whispered doubts about God's ultimate plan, his seemingly absolute authority. He painted a distorted picture of divine rule, suggesting it was restrictive, that angels were capable of greater things, of forging their own destinies. He promised a new order, a liberation from what he termed divine tyranny, where he, Lucifer, would lead them to a self-determined glory. He appealed to their sense of grandeur, their own inherent power. Why should you bow? You are mighty. You are brilliant. Follow me, and we shall ascend to a higher state, co-equals with the Almighty. His lies, though cloaked in persuasive language, were a direct affront to the very nature of God and His created order. He sought to dismantle the divinely established hierarchy, placing himself at the apex. Tragically, his charisma and the intoxicating allure of his promises swayed a significant portion of the angelic host. These were not the weak or the insignificant. Many were powerful warriors, skilled in celestial combat, beings of immense strength and influence. They were blinded by the vision of a self-made paradise, unable to perceive the inherent emptiness and ultimate destruction that lay at its core. Loyalty, the very foundation of the celestial city, began to fracture, dividing families of light, creating a chasm where once there was only unity. The heavenly realm, once a perfect reflection of divine harmony, became a breeding ground for dissent, a silent gathering storm before the inevitable tempest. The breaking point, the moment when whispered dissent erupted into open war, arrived with the force of a celestial thunderclap. Lucifer, now openly declaring his defiance and revealing his true ambition, rallied his followers for a direct assault upon the throne of God. He, the former light-bringer, now became the harbinger of darkness, leading his rebellious legions in a desperate, pride-fueled attempt to seize ultimate power. Against this tide of rebellion stood the loyal hosts of God, their numbers perhaps fewer, but their devotion an unyielding shield. They were led by the archangel Michael, a being whose name itself means, "Who is like God?" His strength was not born of pride, but of unwavering humility and absolute faith in the Almighty. Michael and his legions met Lucifer's forces head-on, their power fueled by divine purpose, their swords blazing with the pure fire of righteousness. The war raged across the celestial plains, a spectacle of unimaginable grandeur and terrifying destruction. Beings whose forms radiated with divine light locked in mortal combat with those now twisted by shadow and fueled by hate. Strategies were formed and broken in nanoseconds. Celestial armies maneuvered across unimaginable distances, and the fate of all creation hung precariously in the balance. Angels who once sang in harmonious chorus now cried out in battle, their celestial melodies replaced by the harsh sounds of conflict. Despite Lucifer's initial power, his strategic brilliance, and the sheer number of his followers, his rebellion was ultimately a futile gesture against the infinite might of God. The divine power, channeled through Michael and the unwavering loyalty of the heavenly hosts, proved an insurmountable force. Slowly, inexorably, the tide of battle began to turn. Lucifer's forces, fueled by pride and self-interest, could not withstand the selfless devotion and righteous fury of those who fought for the true king. The consequence of this celestial treason was swift, absolute, and eternal. Lucifer, the once radiant bearer of light, was stripped of his glory, his wings clipped, and his name forever stained. He, along with his rebellious legions, were cast down from the heavenly realm, banished from the very presence of God, and their celestial inheritance forfeited. They fell like a storm of darkness into the void, their light extinguished, their destiny sealed. Lucifer became Satan, the adversary, and his fallen angels became demons, forever bound to darkness, driven by hatred and eternally opposed to the divine will and the beauty of God's creation. The war in heaven, though fought in a realm beyond mortal comprehension, left an indelible scar upon the fabric of existence. The bitterness of Satan, born from his pride and fueled by his expulsion, would soon find a new target for its venom: the newly created world and the innocent beings fashioned in God's own image. The seeds of rebellion, sown in the celestial city, would soon sprout in the Garden of Eden, casting a long shadow over the destiny of humankind. The battle between good and evil, light and darkness, that began in the highest heavens was far from over. The consequences of this war continued to ripple through eternity, shaping the spiritual landscape and influencing the choices we make every day. The desire for power, the temptation of pride, the deceptive whispers that promise autonomy and self-worship, these are the echoes of Lucifer's ancient rebellion, still seeking to sway hearts and turn them away from the true light. The vigilance of the loyal angels remains a testament to the unwavering devotion required to stand against the forces of darkness. The story of the war in heaven is not a closed chapter. It is the prologue to the grand narrative of redemption, the backdrop against which the love and sacrifice of God